Hey, it's Clay. Welcome to another League of Legends video. This time we're going to be doing another replay analysis. This one's sent in by this Varus player. Let's go ahead and make sure we get everything ordered up. And first and foremost, I want to talk a little bit about kind of how things are going so far with this series. First, I want to say I think the first one went really well. There definitely were some learning experiences along the way. I would definitely say that it was good. A couple of thoughts, though, is please continue to send me your replays if you're looking for feedback. I will make sure I have a link in the description. The email address is clayplaysreplayanalysis@gmail.com. You can send your replay files there. And the first thing I want to say is feel free to send me lots of different replays. And also feel free to include any sort of questions that you want to ask. If there's anything that you are wondering about at all, I'm happy to talk about those types of things. If you're just looking for feedback on your gameplay, then that's exactly what you'll get. But if you want anything else, then this is a good place for that as well. Secondly, I've had some questions about, you know, if I do any other type of replays other than LoL replay, and I have discovered that LoL replay is very, very buggy. I've always known this, but it's been like especially buggy so far. I've had a lot of trouble getting these replays to work. I typically can get it to work eventually. It just will usually take a little bit of time. So if you're using something like Baron Replay or op.gg, they all have a replay function. Or if you are locally recording with something like Open Broadcast System and you just have video files, all of those will work. I actually would highly, highly recommend you getting into Baron Replay is a program I've checked out. It's kind of has a weird install because a lot of it is in like Taiwanese or Korean or something. But it's a very, very reliable way. All the replays that I've tried with that program have worked out very smoothly. So I would highly recommend that you use Baron Replay. If you have already started using LoL Replay, don't be afraid. If you've got those files, still feel free to send them to me. So yeah. Overall, I think things are going well. Again, feel free to use Baron Replay. Has been the most reliable way to send me replay files. And keep sending them in. I would love to keep things going. Oh, and then the last thing I wanted to say is what types of games to send in. I would say that the best types of games to send in are, first of all, maybe a ranked game. If you haven't started ranked play yet, that's totally fine. But if you do have a ranked game, I would maybe prefer that a little bit, just because there tends to be a little bit more of a formal setting, where you're maybe trying to play, you know, you're giving it your best shot, and your opposition is going to be evenly matched. You know, one of the things I've run into with some of these replays is some of the games are just like so stompy that, you know, there were a couple games that I was looking at where it was like the guy, you know, he would end up with like 30 or 40 kills, and like that's awesome. But there's not it's difficult to find anything to recommend or improve when you just have such a huge item lead that you win the game that way. So, yeah, if you have a close game, a competitive game, maybe even a game where you lost, those are the games where I think I can help you the most. So, with all that said, let's go ahead and get into this game. I have not watched it before, so we are just going to, I might even just go ahead and back up a little bit, because I've been kind of ignoring what's been happening so far. Okay, so this game we're watching this Varus player. It looks like our bottom lane has Varus and Zilean against a Tristana team, or a Quinn Teemo. So, very interesting Teemo support pick. You don't see that very often. I would say that Varus and Zilean make for a pretty decent lane matchup. A lot of poke, very poke heavy from this duo. Whereas I think Quinn and Teemo do a little bit better in like an all-in. One thing that I will say about Varus is that Varus has a very strong laning phase. His biggest problem is his immobility. So he goes from this, he can be very much a lane bully into more of a utility-based team fighter. So you guys are doing a nice job of just trying to poke back and forth. You did a nice job of keeping the lane pushed up. In the bottom lane, I almost always recommend trying to push early on. One of the things I looked at in the Draven game is just how important it was. You know, when they got pushed in, that really enabled Ezreal and Janna to negate a lot of their aggression potential. Whereas now that you have Quinn and Teemo pushed in, you can use your range advantage to your advantage. So I think you are doing a very nice job with that. Alright, sorry about that little pause. We're going to keep going now. So, yeah, understanding your lane matchup is one of the most important things that you can do. Lane matchup knowledge is super crucial, because that is what really helps you to gain an advantage. Not only can you play your champion well mechanically, but you can know exactly what they're capable of, where their strong points are, what they're going to try to do, and then playing off of that is really going to be a key to success. So knowing lane matchups is important, and in this lane matchup, as Varus and Zillion, you guys have a range advantage, so you want to try to take advantage of that. Okay, so another thing that I will comment about is your mana bar. On Varus, Varus is very, very much a caster-style AD. You know, his abilities have tremendous damage. His Q is like some of the most obscene damage and scaling. I mean, it's just crazy. And, you know, your W requires your abilities to proc it, so Varus is his power is very, very much tied into his mana bar. And now that you are sitting that's going to be a little bit of trouble, because it means you can't really trade. So I would say that you maybe want to be a little bit more cautious about using your mana in lane. You know, right there, I think you're kind of fishing for the Q onto Teemo, whereas I would have liked it a little bit better if you were kind of saving your Q, or saving your abilities in general, for instances where you know you're going to have a high success. You know, right there, Teemo's sitting at 3 stacks, and he's got 3 little orbs swirling around him. If you had mana for an ability there, that would have really secured that trade. So instead, but I feel like your pattern so far has been a little bit, you're kind of, I'm going to use the word fishing, where you're kind of, you know, if you haven't ever gone fishing, you know, you're basically just throwing out your lure hoping to catch something. You know, you're just throwing it out there in hopes that you'll find something good. Whereas, okay, I'm a little confused right now. It looks like you may be DC'd. So anyways, I don't necessarily think fishing is the best. You know, maybe if you have a lot of mana regen. Okay, it looks like we just walked all the way back. So, you know, so we can recall. You know, recalling is always a good option. Because I'm not exactly sure what happened there. But anyways, to finish my point about mana, when so much of your power is tied into your mana bar, you really want to make sure that you always keep a little bit of mana in reserve for something. You know, when you get to lane, starting out with some poking like that right there was a really nice Q and a very nice E. You know, those are some nice use of some abilities, and now you're getting Quinn really, really low. That was good. But before, you kind of were throwing out your abilities a little bit, I'm not going to say haphazardly, but just with a little bit less caution, a little bit less security and confidence that they were going to actually land, which is what you really want. So, and also, one thing that I will say too is, okay, good use of the heal there to try to save. Oh, that was a little... Okay, very nice, very nice. Glad you picked that up with that Q. Looking for the Jax. Ooh, alright, that was good. Okay, so, let's go ahead and watch this little series again and see if there's anything that we could have done differently. Okay, so... I want to just finish up one more point about mana bar. So if you're an AD carrier that has an ability that you really need, like if you're Ezreal or Corki, you've got a dash or an escape, it's always smart to at least save the minimal amount of mana to use one of those abilities. So you never, ideally you never want to go below your threshold. So with Varus, if that's your Q, you always want to, if you get to the point where you're at about 100 mana, you want to sit on it, just so you can have the 80 mana to use your Q once. Okay, let's go ahead and watch this. We can see Zillion is trading. Maybe would have liked to see you up front trading with Zillion. One thing that's just very important in general is you want to be doing whatever your support is doing. If your support is fighting, you want to be fighting. If your support is running away, you want to be running away. Okay, so it looks like Jax goes in. That's fine. Unfortunately, Zillion is level 6, but it looks like he doesn't have enough mana for his ult. Okay. Now, I think I maybe would have preferred... I don't necessarily think it was wrong to go for the Teemo. And you do end up finishing him off, so that was fine. One thing that I will say about flashing like that is I maybe would be a little bit more... So, I'm just going to say one thing about Flash in general, is you always want to use Flash when you know for a fact that it will benefit you. Too often I see players, you got the kill on Teemo there, but they'll flash forward because they want to get the kill on Teemo. I think that a better and smarter way is to instead, know your champion's damage output, know exactly how many auto attacks and abilities it's going to take to finish them off, and do your best to try and flash at the exact moment to do the exact thing that's required. Again, kind of similar to the fishing concept. You don't want to flash in the hopes that you'll get the kill. Okay, now there's one thing that I will say about this little engagement right here, is that Jax is in this bush. You saw him go in there. You know also that Nocturne is kind of on his way to cover off this escape path. So if I was you, I would be thinking to cover this range right here, and I would be looking to enter the brush from this side. You want to push Jax towards your turret and towards Nocturne. Also, look at your inventory. You have a stealth ward. I would 100%, I would walk this direction and I would place the ward in the brush before I've walked in. Because what I believe you do is you just, okay, there you see him. Now you're kind of taking this approach. By stepping this way, you give him a potential escape route. He could walk this way and use his leap strike to get to a minion and potentially get away, depending on whether or not he has flash. And you're also not using your ward, which allows him to get his counter-strike off, which means he almost kills you. Holy cows, that was really close. I don't think that needed to be as close as it was, just because you had the tools to keep that, not quite so scary by using your ward. Even though Jax was on very low health with his counter-strike, there's not a lot you can do other than using your abilities. Maybe you could have used your ult there just to finish him off too. Just a thought. Alright, so we're back in lane. Good. One thing to know is that when Teemo blinds you, you absolutely never want to try and just kind of power it, press through it, and keep auto-attacking. Use that time to reposition yourself to an optimal position, and don't use that as an opportunity to try to keep attacking. Alright, some good use of your abilities there to make sure that they are landing and getting Quinn really, really low. One of the critiques I had earlier was that you were using your abilities a little bit haphazardly and wasting some of your mana bar. You want to make sure you keep your mana high. Alright, so looks like Zilean wants to go all in. Nice job of using his bait. I think it's fine that you're going on the Teemo. He is the closer target and a little bit more guaranteed. So that was good. That was pretty well played. A nice bait there by the Zilean, and did a nice job of following up with a good ultimate. Overall, I think that was pretty well played, so I was happy with that. Just make sure that you're not trying to auto-attack through the blind. You're using your abilities to maximize your damage with Varus' W. One thing I will say about itemization very quickly, and also skill order, I think, I'm not sure if maxing your W like this, or putting a point in there, is optimal. My understanding is that you want to max Q, and then E is maybe a little bit better of a second max. W last, just because W does percentage max health, and percentage max health is better the later the game goes, not necessarily the earlier the game goes. So, okay, it looks like we're pinging for a gank. We get the flash from Quinn, returning nicely, and it's probably the end of that. That's okay. Got a flash. I would say it's worth it. So I would maybe have liked to see max and Q and then E, not necessarily putting early points into W. And then also, I think it's fine to get boots 2 this early, just because Varus is a little bit more of a low mobility AD carry. But I maybe would have preferred to see you invest a little bit more in some early attack damage. Going for Infinity Edge is such a good item on Varus. These big high Infinity Edge, Last Whisper, even Brutalizer, Bloodthirster, maybe even Essence Reaver. These are big AD items, are so good on Varus. Thinking about what Varus is really good at, his Q is one of the best abilities in the game. It's really long range, it has extremely high damage. High base damage, and very, very high scaling. So you really want to maximize that, and I think that building into attack speed, while it's definitely possible, you know, it will maximize the W damage a little bit more, just because you're more quickly getting those 3 stacks up. I guess my opinion is that it's maybe a little bit smarter to really try to abuse Varus's AD caster nature. Just a little minor thing. Alright, nice job of seeing Jax coming in here on that ward and backing off. Stay with your support. Okay, you guys are doing a nice job looking for him. Although, yeah, see, I think that right there... He didn't use his ult either. He must have just got straight bursted. I kind of would have preferred... Well... I guess I can see it 2 ways. You could have stayed with your support, and I think then you would have been a lot more powerful together. But by splitting up, you do kind of make sure you cover all the ground needed. So I guess I can kind of see it both ways. I maybe would have preferred to see you stay with your support, just because I think it would have potentially traded 1 for 1 instead of giving up a kill. Interesting. Okay. Okay, and it looks like we are picking up recurve bow, and we are probably going to be going for... the blessed Runan's Hurricane. Okay. So I think the idea with the Hurricane build, I can see why you're putting more points in W, is that you can spread your Blight in an AoE to multiple targets. And then get a lot of AoE damage off. Now, I don't want to really harp on this too much, because I mean, I just don't really think that this is a very good build. It's probably a fun build. You know, I think Runan's is a fun item. It can feel pretty fun to buy it. But Runan's is not a very strong item. And let me explain why. So like I said, Runan's can be very fun. But if you are trying to improve and play in a competitive-ish sense, a competitive meaning that you are playing to win, primarily, then I would skip Runan's. And this is why. First of all, Runan's doesn't have any crit. And crit is one of the best stats on an AD carry, just because... Oh, nice job of getting... okay, he must have flashed. Runan's is one of the weakest items in terms of scaling an AD carry into the late game, because it doesn't have any crit. Crit is so good. And AD carry builds are pretty set in stone for a reason. You need a lifesteal item, where you can choose Bloodthirster or Blade of the Ruin King, maybe Essence Reaver, but probably one of those two. They offer the best lifesteal stats and combat stats. And then you need Infinity Edge, and you're going to need an attack speed item with crit go along with it, which is either Phantom Dancer or Static Shiv, and then you need Last Whisper. You know, those 4 items are pretty set in stone. Blade of the Ruin King or Bloodthirster, Infinity Edge, Phantom Dancer, Static Shiv, and Last Whisper. That's pretty much... you want to go to somewhere with that build every single game. And the reason is that all of these items complement each other so well. You have Lifesteal to keep you alive. Lifesteal gives you a lot of effective health. It also makes your farming very efficient. You can farm jungle camps, you can solo dragons, do all sorts of nice things without really worrying about it. You can duel a lot better. Now, you aren't really building a lot of defense, so you need Lifesteal as a sort of defensive item. Nice snipe there. You need Infinity Edge, because it gives you that 250% crit damage modifier. So again, you're scaling into late game super hard. Infinity Edge gives you a huge pool of flat attack damage to scale your lifesteal and your attack speed, which you're getting with your Phantom Dancer or Static Shiv, which is also giving you more crit chance. You know, all of the end and Last Whisper is the final piece of the puzzle to make sure that you're efficiently getting through any armor. So I just think that all of these items together, they just work so nicely together, that I think that skipping out on one of them by going with, you know, what do you replace with Runan's Hurricane? Do you take out your Phantom Dancer, Static Shiv? Well, then you're only sitting on 25% crit, and you're not necessarily going to be scaling that well. And also, another thing about Runan's is I think that I mean, look at, you have 126 attack damage, and your bolts are doing about 73 damage. So, I just am not convinced. And also, think about like an optimal situation. You know, how frequently are you actually going to be in range to safely auto-attack 3 enemy champions? In my experience, that's pretty rare. You know, staying safe as an AD carry is extremely important. You know, you really really need to be focused on staying safe. A little unfortunate there. I think you flashed when the kill was already secured. But back to Runaan's, you know, the fact is that you likely, looking at their enemy team, you maybe will have Jax and Diana bum rush you. Like, maybe. Those would be the two champions that go after you. So that means that you maybe will have two champions within your range. But there's really no way that Quinn, Tristana, and Teemo are going to be kind of there as well as acceptable targets. There just isn't a situation in a late game team fight when you're going to be able to really maximize your purchase and get that big AoE off. Not in such a way that would do any, you know, because basically what you needed to do is equalize with a Phantom Dancer static shift, and I just don't think that that will happen. So I would have really liked to see you just finish your big ticket AD item, and now you put another point into E. So I'm a little bit confused. You know, if you're going to go for the Runaans, you really want to make sure that you have your W scaled up, because that's basically the synergy that you're going for there. Okay, well, I'll be done with it. I don't necessarily even think that, like, optimizing your build... Oh, that was a nice Q. And a nice finish there. So that you played this part well. I guess I think overall, if you're getting into a place where you're in more competitive matches, playing against more serious players and ranked, and you're trying to get up into gold and platinum and diamond, I think that this type of a build is really something that will hold you back. And I don't want that. My intention with this feedback is not to take away your fun. I'm just trying to help you get in a position to do whatever you can to win. And I think that by using a build that is fun, but not necessarily strong, I think you may be limiting yourself with some potential damage output. If you really want to know more about builds and what builds are good, I recommend checking out probuilds.net. They have all the champions there. They have a lot of the LCS players will post their builds, and that's just a really, really nice way to see what builds are strong. This game is pretty out of reach at this point. I think we did a pretty decent job. You've got a pretty decent understanding of Varus' skills and mechanics. You've done a nice job of, you know, using your Q. Done a nice job of using your ultimate for the CC. At this point, if I were you, I would be looking to maybe rotate top. I think just from a decision standpoint, if you could get some wards down in this area and rotate top and take this tower, I think that would have been a little bit better choice. You know, their team is going to be pinned in by this wave of super minions pushing down their base. Just a little bit of a thought process there. Also, when you get ahead, yeah, see, now it looks like part of your team rotated top and now they're getting caught out. So I think if you would have gone with them, you probably could have cleaned up a lot of these kills. You know, you have so much of you and Anivia have so much of the power, and I guess Nocturne. You know, you guys are the power champions on this team right now. Also, I think as just a general note, Varus is very, very strong when he is in connection with other champions. He's not necessarily the best in a 1v1. So, just another thing. Looks like you guys are going to go for a little bit of a... Yeah, Jax is going to try to get this blue buff and get away, but Zillion might make that a little tricky. Okay, now at this point, what I want you to be thinking about is what needs to be done. Okay, good job. Are we going to die for this? Yes. Unfortunate. Okay. See, I think when we used our flash here, if you had flash up, you could have flash autoed, and then, or at least use your flash to get out. A lot of peculiar builds in this game. I'm not exactly sure what Tristan is thinking by going Nashor's Tooth and CDR boots. That is not very good. Jax jungle, not going for a jungle item, instead going for Hextech. Probably not the best either. Teemo rushing Void Staff. Okay. Well, Volibear's got a good build. Nocturne's got a pretty good build. Niveau's got a good build, so A little interesting. All I'm gonna. I don't want to comment too much on suboptimal builds, just because I think that they come more with a. I don't know. I guess I don't necessarily think that. I want to focus more on gameplay decisions and a little bit less on builds. I think that. I mean, I really don't want to be like condescending, but I think this is maybe a little bit of a lower elo match, or maybe just a normal, where people are kind of focused on trying to have some fun. But I think that building optimally is important for solo queue. Is all I will say, and then I will leave at that point at that. Okay, so at this point in the game, I would really like to see your team, or you know, anybody can be a shot caller. I would really like to see. I'm just going to pause it for a second. I'd really like to see you guys take a little bit of an understanding of how you're going to win the game. Like, what steps can you take to win? Now, what I would like to see you guys doing is, step one is get all the lanes pushing. Specifically, this top lane is going to be pushing towards you. You know, somebody to just go up there, maybe a top laner with teleport, and just get that lane shoving. Get all the lanes pushing into their team. Second step is to ward up their jungle, specifically this top side. You're going to want to ward here in this bush. You're going to want to ward in this bush, and then maybe in this area as well. Pick one of those. You know, so you don't actually have a sightstone on this team, which is very unfortunate. I would encourage Zillion, very kindly encourage him to pick up a sightstone. Drop wards in this area, and then what you do is you also try to deny vision with red sweepers or pink wards, and that gives you total freedom to do Baron, get the lanes pushing, and then if you see their enemy team coming towards you because you have their whole jungle warded up, you can choose to engage them, you can bait a fight, you can sit in this little bush or in the Baron pit, and then get just a very clean team fight by baiting them to come at you. That is probably one of the best ways. You've got this inhibitor down. Going to push in with this inhibitor is not a very good strategy, because you already have, like what more can you get in mid lane? It's very difficult to go from inhibitor to ending the game. You want to ideally get a second inhibitor down. And in my opinion, the best way to do that, ward up their jungle, take Baron, push down a second lane. So then, when these, like, look at this big wave of super minions. I guess it's going to respawn soon. I'm not exactly sure what happened to them. But you want to use your super minions to put their team in this crunch, where they either have to send somebody to deal with super minions. I guess maybe being here on time to take this inhibitor is smart. But what you want to do is, when they have taken, when the inhibitor's down, okay, it looks like this team fight is breaking out, kind of getting sucked into things a little bit, which is unfortunate. I'm going to go ahead and rewind it. Let me just finish my point, though. So when the inhibitor's down, the super minions are pushing in, somebody has to go deal with those super minions, or they will end the game. And then you use the numbers advantage plus the Baron buff to do whatever you want at one of these other towers. You can dive, you can siege and poke, whatever you need to do. Okay, let's go ahead and watch this team fight again, because I think that maybe we could have improved our positioning a little bit. Okay, I'm going to slow this down. So at this point, this is the best time for the enemy team to engage, because some of you are going to try and finish off this inhibitor while some of you are going to fight, which is exactly what Jax does. Now he's just going to get blown up. A good ultimate there, but then you step forward, you get caught in Diana's E, and now Jax is hitting you, Tristana, Teemo, Quinn gets a big AoE blind right here. Just a lot of difficult things happen, and now that you're out, you flash. I don't think that that was the best use of your positioning or your summoner spells. Let's just go ahead and back this up one more time, and maybe we can try about what we could have done a little bit differently. Lost track of you a little bit. Okay, there we go. So I think what would have been a better choice is, what I would have done is maybe just try to focus on finishing off the inhibitor, but staying at about this range. When you see Jax go in, keep your full auto attack distance from him, so you can continue to auto attack him, but you aren't going to get sucked in by either his stun or the Diana vacuum. I'm not even sure what that ability is called. Okay, so Jax, you can see him counter-striking. I'm going to pause here. This should tell you that Jax wants to engage. He's not going to counter-strike like this unless he wants to do something. So anticipate that he's going to go in. So he does go in. Now, you've seen him use his jump. He used his jump to get onto Anivia. You know that he can't jump to you. So stay at your maximum range. Either finish off the inhibitor or start attacking the Jax, whatever you decide. I think either way is fine. You decide to ultimate, that's totally fine. Okay, so now you step forward, and that gets you sucked into the Diana Moonfall. I think that was maybe a mistake. I would have preferred you stay back here at this range, auto-attack the Jax, use your long-range abilities to keep kiting and zoning. This allows Tristana to rocket jump in, you get knocked back, and then you flash. Like, there's no more danger to flash away from. But you took so much damage from when you got sucked in by Diana's vacuum that it kind of left you in a bit of a vulnerable position. So I maybe would have liked to see a little bit better positioning there, where you are trying to stay in a place where, number one, you are safe. That is the first priority, that you stay safe. And then number two, you want to be in a place, and when I say stay safe, that means that you aren't in position to get vacuumed. You aren't in a position to get Jack stunned. You aren't in a position to get jumped on by Tristana. Number two, you're still relevant in dealing damage. So that means you could still auto-attack the Jax, which again is maybe why, another reason why I don't necessarily think that the Runaan's Hurricane is the best option. You know, we've got, now you're deciding to finish the inhibitor. I haven't seen a situation yet where there are a lot of champions that are grouped together for you to get all your AoE off. I think at this point, probably need to be concerned about home guard boots. Looks like your team is still fighting. I think I maybe would have, I guess it's fine to, you know, at some point they need to make their own decisions. Oh, nice job by Nivea to pick up that kill. Fortunately now kind of baited in the Zillion, and I think he's going down. Okay, so again, I think that it would have been a lot better to take the inhibitor, and if they engage a fight, go ahead and go for it. But, you know, we stayed for too long. We weren't clear on what our objectives were to win and finish off the game. I would have much preferred you guys take vision control, look to take Baron, get the side lanes pushing. With Baron and super minions pushing down mid, you have a lot of options as far as what you can do.
Blue team's turret has been destroyed.
And just to comment again on your build, you don't have any lifesteal. So that at the end of that last fight when you got really low, you didn't really have any option other than to go base. I just think that a little bit of a different build path could have been ideal. Now, let's look at what else is happening. Your team is fighting here, and then we have Nocturne at base. Looks like things are going well just because you guys are so far ahead in terms of a gold lead, but this is definitely not the optimal strategic play. This is definitely not the choices that should be made if you want to win the game in a competitive sense. Again, I really would have preferred to see you guys stay grouped. Okay, it looks like, yeah, we're just kind of capitalizing on this Quinn getting very overly aggressive, going in when she really shouldn't have. And I would have really preferred you as Varus to understand that you are much more powerful when you group with your team. Varus has a lot of team utility, both with his poke and with his ultimate providing a lot of utility. He's low mobility, so he's not a very good duelist. And I guess I just think that grouping with your team, again, you guys are still going mid. I don't think that this is going to be a very successful way to close out this game. I would have much preferred to see, you know, maybe just ask your teammates to come join you bottom. And now it looks like we're going to get caught out a little bit by this Diana. Good ultimate to save your life, but still, we're having all these problems just because we aren't really understanding what needs to be done objectively to win the game. You know, pushing, you were in the bottom lane, encourage your teammates to come with you and take the free tower. The tower is totally free. You know, they've got super minions pushing into their base. They've got to send somebody to deal with it. I think that tower would have been totally free. You guys are clearly strong. Like, good things are happening even when you're not there. I just think that we could have, you know, you've got a 10,000 gold lead. This game could have ended a lot more cleanly had we been a little bit smarter about our objective play. Alright, staying a little bit too long in base. Even if you are waiting on a completed item, I still think that dead time in base is a little bit of a detriment. Looks like we're just going to go ahead and finish the game. So, a couple things to just re-summarize. In the laning phase, first and foremost, know the strengths and weaknesses of your dual lane versus their dual lane. This can apply to any matchup, even in a 1v1. You know, understanding what you guys are good at versus what they're good at is really important. And knowing that Zillion and Varus has a lot of poke and a lot of range, and that you want to keep this Teemo Quinn, you know, they're really good at fighting, at dueling at close range with their blinds and their damage. You want to try to keep them at arm's length and just poke at them. You know, here we're getting sucked in, forces you to use your flash, you know, not such good positioning. That was definitely something to take away from this game, is your positioning, I think, could use some improvement. Understanding, you know, really strong itemization as well, and why do we need to go for a specific itemization path, I think could have really helped you out. You know, going for a lifesteal item would have been really nice this game, just so you don't have to base so much. And then positioning is definitely the big thing. You know, let's watch this last fight one more time. You know, again, the idea is maximizing your safety and your damage. Both of those things at the same time. You know, we see that we're sieging at these Nexus turrets. That's totally fine. Now, when does this fight actually engage? Okay, pause. Look, you see, exact same thing that's happened last time. Jax starts to use his Counter-Strike. That should tell you that Jax wants to engage. So, start to take a couple steps back. You want to be back here by Anivia, because think about the distance that Jax can jump with his Q. Well, don't put yourself in position. Force him to use his Q to jump on a tank like Volibear, so that he can't jump on you. But instead, you're caught up. Like, so you're Varus. You've got like 1500 range on your Q. I think that standing in this position to use your Q is really not a good choice. If you could be standing back in this position by Anivia and firing the same Q from safety, then you get sucked in by the vacuum. You have to flash away when you really didn't want to. Now, good ultimate there, but again, look at where you are. You are in front of your tank. And Nocturne and Anivia, like, now you need to spend your time running, whereas, I mean, like, look, if there was an optimal use for your Hurricane, it's right now. And if you're back here, while they attack Volibear, you can attack them. They're stuck in your ultimate. You can hit them with your AoE. I mean, if you had better positioning, this team fight would have been a complete stomp. But instead, we had to use our flash defensively. We had to spend a lot of time running away because we got caught out of position. Jax is jumping on you. Jax is scary. And now we can turn on him. That's totally fine. I just think that your position could have been a little bit better. Again, focus on maximizing your safety first, and then your damage second. And now I think the game is over. So, anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please let me know your thoughts down below. Continue to send me replays to clayplaysreplayanalysis@gmail.com. I can accept Baron replays, I can do LOL replay, I can do video recorded files with OBS or Fraps or whatever you want to use. Send me an email and we can get something worked out. But I hope you guys enjoyed this. You know, some good thoughts here about how we can improve our laning, how we can improve our positioning in teamfights, why we can understand what good item builds are. And then lastly, we also talked a little bit about objective play, you know, what you guys could have done to end this game even faster. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed this. Please let me know your thoughts down below, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.